Sorry. So we work across a number of different hubs. So obviously we have our big London office. We've now got our massive office in Leeds in the Majestic, which is where I'm based. We also have a sales office in Manchester, and we have creative hubs in Glasgow and Bristol. Now, I probably can't describe what Channel 4 is as well as our actual advert can. So I'm just going to share this with you. I think the sound should work. If it doesn't, apologies in advance. Just enjoy it for what it is.
If you're watching this, you have been classified W for weird.
That's right. You're weird. I'm weird. They're definitely.
All right?
All right.
Different. There's nothing normal about this place.
Or anyone who lives here.
Well, of course! We've been different since the Jurassic.
Since we dropped our first hinge. So airy.
So durable.
It's true. You people always had a certain... je ne sais quoi.
Too right, Fred. We're the nation that watches TV to watch other people watch TV.
The Put a Goth on a family baking show.
Baking's for losers.
That believes a man could have a child swapped at birth, be taken hostage by a serial killer, discover his wife having an affair with his dad, and still not think to move towns.
I just like it here.
That accepts me for what I am. Northern!
From Llanfair Pwllgwyngyll go Gerrych when Dropos and Sicilia go
to horny old road.
We won't always see eye to eye.
Or even see at all! Because we're all different, even down to our
pussycats.
Down to our fears and our fantasies?
Even the way you answer the phone, blood. Yo, well, go on, I can't even talk, blood. Doing something for Channel 4. No!
Different. It's the one thing that we've all got in common.
Come on, you big, beautiful weirdos.
Let's ride.
Vive la défense.
You've literally just ruined the whole thing.
And there we are. That is Channel 4 in a nutshell. Oh, it's always Adam Hills in his pants. Whenever, well, it's not even got his pants on. Oh, I used to work with Adam Hills as well, so that's quite scarring. Lovely guy, though, I should say. So as a public service broadcaster, we have a remit. Every one of us, every one of the channels has a different remit, and Channel 4's is to be a little bit different, as outlined in that video. So this is what we're about, basically. So we're here to champion unheard voices. We're here to innovate and take bold creative risks, to inspire change in the way we lead our lives, and to stand up for diversity across the UK. Now, we hope that those ambitions come out in the programming and in the way that we do things. Just so you know, there they are set out. We are completely behind them, and that's everything that we're about. So Channel 4 in Leeds, I wanted to talk a little bit about why we're actually here, because obviously I'm conscious that you are all in Leeds and hopefully looking forward to a long career and life in the city. I grew up here, so, well, I grew up in Wakefield, but it's, you know, Leeds is a close second to Wakefield. So Channel 4 in Leeds, the reason we picked it, so we chose it as a national headquarters as a result of a few reasons. So one of them was the fact that it has a thriving Yorkshire TV production scene. So there's loads of brilliant production companies based in the region, which I'll cover off a bit later because they are brilliant employers as well. We've got a really good talent pool of graduates, so pat yourselves on the back for that one. Lots of very good unis across the region that produce lots of brilliant, highly skilled graduates. We've also got a booming digital scene, tons of companies doing really interesting things in Leeds. And now that Channel 4, our Future 4 strategy is very much about moving away from being a linear TV production channel and more around digital, looking at our All4 platform and our kind of our social media platforms and how that'll affect the business in terms of incomes and how we reach people. So really brilliant that we're part of that in Leeds now, and also good connectivity, which it might not feel like that when you live in the region, but actually the transport system here is surprisingly good in comparison to other places. So working in TV. So as I mentioned, I'm going to cover off a little bit about working at Channel 4, but also more about kind of wider TV production and the types of work available. So I've been quite lazy here and literally taken these from our jobs website, but this is all of the departments that we have at Channel 4. So as I mentioned before, Channel 4 does not make its own content, so we don't have a production arm in the way that you might have at the BBC or ITV. We're all about the business behind it. So largely, and I'm going to miss out lots of roles by saying this, but you can basically divide Channel 4 into kind of operations, commercial, commissioning and marketing. So some of our teams, so like 4 creative, 4 studio and our marketing teams, they do make some content. So like the advert you just saw, Altogether Different, that was made by our in-house team. But anything that you see really going out on our channels is made by other people. So I'm conscious that for some of you who are studying all sorts, I'm not even going to name subjects because you can study whatever you like and get whatever job you want in Channel 4, but there's tons of opportunities available. So if you are doing legal or finance or any of the more operational stuff, there are tons of jobs that'll be coming up in Leeds. I think we've got about up to 250 people in the city now, so a really nice workforce, and it's a lovely office. I will say I've watched that office being built for years and it's very nice to be in it now. So that's a good idea. If you are interested in any of those, I should say, just take a look at our website. You can actually find this on our Channel 4 Jobs website. And usually when you can click more, you'll find out more about the teams. We have got a good amount of teams in Leeds, and we are just generally working much more flexibly now. So take a look, and if there's something that interests you, then hopefully there'll be something right for you in the city. The other thing that we do, and this is the part of the business that I manage, is the 4 skills schemes. I'm going to set that animation off. Nice. So we run a number of schemes that are really focused on entry-level talent. And if some of you are looking to get more into the creative side or indeed in the business side, some of them might be relevant for you. So we've got the Channel 4 production training scheme. This one offers a year-long placement and training with a production company across the UK. So we have done quite a few placements in Leeds. We've got placements at the moment with Roland, which is Kay Mellor's company, if you're aware of her work, and Duck Soup, which is a company that is led by the producers of This Is England. They've got their own company now, which is doing really exciting stuff. So that'll be opening up later in the year as well, if that's something that you're interested in. I think placements will be starting September. So if any of you are in your 3rd year and starting to have a think about what you want to do after uni, that's probably a really good one to keep your eye on. That will be on our 4 Skills website and on our social media pages. So feel free to give us a follow if that's something you're interested in. We've then got Content Creatives, which is a digital content scheme. So a little bit different, not really focused on making TV programs, much more around what we put out on our social channels and some of our branded content. So they're a fascinating team. Like, as I say, it's not just social media. So they've just made a series with I'm going to pronounce this so wrong, Balmain. In my head, I say Balmain, but I think that's because I'm from the Northeast. Not as nuanced in French. But they've made a whole drama series, which is like sponsored by Balmain, and offers, obviously, it contains their products within it, contains their clothes. The other thing that we offer is apprenticeships. So we do that within Channel 4. So that's very much focused on business skills. So they're always worth taking a look at if there's something that you'll be interested in, depending obviously if it's the right level for you once you graduate. The other thing that we offer, if you are very much interested in the creative side, we have things like 4 screenwriting, 4 stories, and the Channel 4 Writing for TV Awards. So they're all, as it says on the tin, much more focused on if you're interested in screenwriting. They offer, I believe, 4 screenwriting definitely offers mentoring, training. 4 Stories actually offers the opportunity to make a half-hour drama for Channel 4 and also offers support and mentoring around that. And the Writing for TV Awards also offer a paid placement. And then we also do an MA in Investigative Journalism at DMU. So I obviously don't want to encourage anyone to leave the region for De Montfort, but if that's something you're interested in, that's done in collaboration with the programme Dispatches. And it's really focused on, obviously, as it says on the tin, investigative journalism. So if you feel that you are the future, I can't even think of an example of one, but a future investigative journalist, then that's a scheme worth taking a look at. We also do a ton of other stuff to develop skills. So as I say, we do things with a company called TRC. We do the National Film and Television School and Screen Skills. Some of those are just offering little top-up skills. So if there's something you might be interested in, maybe just to top up things you've learned throughout your degree, or maybe if you're doing a different degree and you want to learn a bit more about TV skills, just keep an eye out for the type of things that we're doing. We're doing one next week, actually. It's a National Film and Television School Digital and Innovation Week. So if there's anything on there that you're interested in, take a look. And this is not all of the production companies in Leeds, I should just point out, but this is a selection that I've pulled forward to just give you an idea of the types of people who are here and the types of employers that are here if you're interested in working in TV production. So we've got like True North. They make tons of factual content. They're the biggest indie in the north, and they are based in Marshall's Mill, so just in Holbeck at the south entrance of the train station. I mentioned Duck Soup. We've also got companies like Daisy Beck who make the Yorkshire Vet. We've got Wise House Films who are based with ITV. The Garden who make 24 Hours in A&E, and then obviously Roland who make Kay Miller's shows like Girlfriends and back in the day shows like Fat Friends. Now getting into TV. So what I'm actually, you know what, I'm going to really quickly, sorry, very unprofessional, I'm going to plug my headphones in because they're running out of battery. So entertain yourselves for about 10 seconds. I will talk about now getting into TV. So this will be really focused on to succeed. That was almost flawless, and hopefully now I won't run out of battery when I'm trying to talk to you. Okay, so your first steps in TV, the really obvious thing is to just watch loads of TV. That is a valid, you can make it an excuse and say that you're doing research for a job now. Everybody I know who works in TV sits and watches it all the time. Even our chief exec, Alex Mahon, I think she spends a good 2-3 hours a day, somehow manages to cram that in her schedule. But it is really important, especially if you're applying for someone like Channel 4, even in our business roles and like jobs in the 4 skills teams. We will ask people what's a Channel 4 show you watched in the last week that you enjoyed. It just makes sure that you're really tapped into the brand. So try and get a good understanding, and you should watch other channels, obviously. I'm not just going to say that you only watch Channel 4. Research the kind of indies based on your location. So I've mentioned some of them there. If you do want to work in Leeds, just have a look at what's available. And again, I've said you may have to be flexible about what you work on. So for instance, if you want to work in comedy, like I started in comedy, there isn't a massive comedy scene in Leeds in terms of TV. So you might have to either commute to Manchester if you want to do that, or have a look at what types of things are actually being made here. Networking, I know, but people hate networking. I hate the word networking, so I'm going to cover off a little bit more about what we really mean by networking. But a really good place to start is that there's tons of stuff online. So loads of social media groups, loads of just everything. I mean, I'm not on Twitter. I should be on Twitter. I just use the 4 Skills Twitter account to have a look at what's going on. But just make sure that you're really linked in with as much going on as possible, and also be persistent. It is a competitive industry to get into. It's certainly not impossible though. I did it back in the day. I'm sure that you can as well. And obviously, when I say be persistent, do it in a professional way. Don't irritate people in a nice way. So networking. So what do we mean by networking? So I think that when I think of networking, I think of an awful cold space where I don't know anyone and I have to try and either have enough wine to strike a conversation or just stand awkwardly in the corner trying to find somebody that I know. But I don't actually think that we do networking like that in TV. So I think it's much broader than that. So things like where you're at now is brilliant. In uni, use societies, use groups, you know, like join, I don't know, if you've got a TV society, you know what I mean, like your own channel at the university, or if you've got a radio station or whatever it might be, just make sure that you get involved. You don't have to always be in front of the camera. I'm sure that a lot of you on the call, I will be telling you something that you're all already doing, but just make sure that you try and get to know as many people as possible. I actually realized I went to Royal Holloway University, and when I got into Channel 4, the guy sat behind me at the desk was a guy I went to uni with 10 years ago, who I knew from the radio station. So you all find each other in the end. It is a very, very small industry. So just make sure that, yeah, you get involved with as much as possible while you can. Networking as an adult is really hard to find hobbies compared to when you're at uni. So put yourself out there. Social media is brilliant for this kind of thing. So I've got a list of things later in the presentation of like good groups that you can join. But to be honest, especially if you're looking at getting into like freelance work and TV production work, most jobs aren't advertised as a formal job. So everything at Channel 4 that we do is advertised on our jobs website. But if people are just looking for a runner for the day or production assistant or whatever it might be, they will usually just chuck something on, maybe TV Talent North or even like their own social media group. So it really good, as I say, to just get in as many of them as possible and keep updating yourself. And then there's obviously, these are the other networks that you can have. So informal networks, which are just for you guys, is a bit more like students on your course, and then personal networks like friends and family. I didn't know anyone in TV though, so I wouldn't worry if you don't know a single. So I don't think I'd even met anyone who worked in TV till I did my first interview in TV. So don't worry if you don't know a soul, you will get there. So this for just general CV and application advice. When you're first starting out, we see a lot of applications. I think for the production training scheme, we usually get something like anywhere between 3,000 and 5,000 applications for what can sometimes be 15 jobs, which sometimes feels quite scary. So try and just make your application as easy to read as possible. Like keep it to 1 to 2 pages, especially if you've not got much experience. Don't feel like you're filling it for the sake of it. Get a good profile on there. The main thing for entry-level jobs is that people just want to know that you're really passionate about the industry and that you seem like a cool, nice person that would be nice to work with. I mean, that's the main thing to try and communicate. Don't overthink design too much. I think there's often, especially for the creative industries, sometimes a lot of importance put on it being, I don't know, like super colorful or a video or whatever it might be, but just try and get all the information you need on there and keep it, as I say, simple as possible. So your CV should tell a story as well. So it should show some enthusiasm. So like I said before, if you're not doing a relevant degree, you can still tell that story through your hobbies and interests. So like I did politics, so when I wanted to get into TV, I really tried to tell the story of the fact that I'd joined more relevant societies at uni and that I was doing like a part-time job in something relevant and that kind of thing. So there is a way of telling a story, even if you think you're not quite on the right course, whatever it might be. And yeah, evidence of putting skills into practice. That's another thing. Don't just say that you're a really good, I don't know, people person and then not give an example. That's a quick one. Whatever it might be, just give an example of a time you've convinced someone to do something. That's for people person skills, obviously not for every job. So as an entry-level candidate, so when you're first starting out work, some of you might be working already on the side of your degree, some of you might not be, that's totally fine. So it's really important to be enthusiastic, well-researched, inquisitive and polite. Obviously, I don't mean like being really quiet and keeping yourself to yourself. I just mean in a nice kind of, just chat to people, be natural. I've put here, make it easy for people to help. So if you are looking for work, just make sure you've got an up-to-date CV all the time and try and mention to people what you're up to at the minute. And the other really important one, I cannot reinforce this enough, is to get to know your peers. I think your peers will get you work more in TV than anybody else. When I was starting out, I think my first jobs were all because my friend went on holiday and so she had to hand off her contracts onto somebody else. So really, really helpful. I should say as well that, as I've mentioned, a lot of jobs aren't advertised, so a lot of word of mouth stuff is really important. So yeah, keep your connections, even if it feels a bit awkward that you're talking to someone who you don't know, just make sure that you try and keep in touch with them in a very normal, casual way. I keep saying normal and casual. I don't really know what either of those words mean in that context. But for instance, recently I interviewed a girl for a role who then wasn't successful. And it's happened with a couple of candidates actually, and they've just dropped a message to say that they might be interested in working on something else. I've put them in touch with someone and that's then led to a job. So whoever you meet, just try and keep in touch with them in a way that's like I'm still interested in TV. Please help me out. So here's some useful information, I think. So if you're really not sure where to start, so if you're like me, you did a totally irrelevant degree and you don't even know what jobs are available in television, Screen Skills is a fantastic place to start. They've got tons of the job profiles and everything, and you can try and see what is a good match for your skills. Job opportunities, I can send this out as well in case any of you want the links, because I know it's quite hard to write links. But job opportunities here, so one of these is Scotland. I've just left a Scotland one in. If you want to work in Scotland, there it is. But the unit list is quite good for jobs, as is the TV water cooler. Facebook groups, TV Talent North, a lot of production companies post their jobs on there. And then there's the Northern England, Scotland Film TV crew contacts. Sorry, there's a lot of forward slashes there. And then there's deaf and disabled people in TV, which post some really good jobs. And if you're more interested in creative writing, there's 2 resources there. So Create Central, brilliant, and BBC Writers Room. Even though we don't work for the BBC, I would say that Writers Room is an absolutely fantastic resource. So if you're interested in that, definitely tap into it. They've got everything up there. And follow us. So if you are us being me and the 4 Skills teams, if you are interested in any of our schemes or a job at Channel 4, get yourself on there. If you want to drop us an email, if you see something you're not sure about it, email us at 4skills@channel4.co.uk. And I think that is the end of my questions. So end of my presentation. So if you have questions, drop them in the chat, or you can just ask me face to face. I hope I don't come across as too scary.
That's great. Thanks, Charlotte. We did have one from Megan that was about the MA in investigative journalism and whether or not it's open now.
It is
open as a normal MA, is it kind of in terms of year?
Yes,
starting September, etc.
I can check the details. I don't actually know off the top of my head, but yeah, it does work as a normal MA. So it's just a very niche, more specialized one. But yeah, I think it should work along normal academic years, but we can double check that.
I've just got a link here, so I'll pop it in the chat for everyone. Oh, hang on, I'm accidentally direct messaging someone. So there's a link there for everyone who can follow up and do some research into that. A question here about whether what sort of opportunities or whether there are opportunities at Film 4. Noticed that it was on one of your slides. It was one of the sections that was open. So you know.
Yeah. To be honest, I'm really not sure on Film 4. So they're not. I don't believe they're based in Leeds, but they are not a team that have much. They're ever so slightly separate body to the main Channel 4. Not massively. They are with Channel 4. But yeah, just keep an eye on the website for those kind of jobs coming up.
To see what comes up. And that was from James. And Abhinav, I apologise if I've said your name wrong. There is a question about international students and whether Channel 4 sponsors Tier 2 visas. Are you aware of that? I know it's not, you don't work in HR, so you may not know.
I'm not 100% sure. Usually, so for our 4 skills scheme, certainly, we usually just ask that you have a right to work in the UK. It's not something that I'm aware we do anything above and beyond on, but for our full-time jobs, again, yeah, it would have to be our HR team could answer that.
Yeah, no, that's not a problem. Has anybody else got any other questions? Feel free to come on camera if you do, or you can pop them in the chat box. I mean, it's a very comprehensive presentation.
I feel like I flew through it, so apologies.
That's fine. No, not a problem at all. I thought it was really useful to see, and that information on, oh, there is another question, but I'll come to it in a second. But that information on kind of your first steps into TV and the things to include in your CV and things like that, I thought were really useful. Did you mention that you might be able to send the slides over?
Absolutely, yeah, I can send them over.
We'll make sure that everyone can get an access to that, so they can access those links. So from Tilly, hi Charlotte, thank you very much for a great presentation. May I ask when applications are open for Channel 4 Productions training schemes? And also, would it be possible to repeat the slide on job opportunities?
Oh, yeah. Let me see if I can share my screen again. I'm sure I will be able to. Let's have a
We will
look.
make sure you get the slides, Tilly, so
Oh,
so you
cool.
don't necessarily need to kind of copy
There
and
we go.
paste everything down. So yes, when
production
our
training
application
scheme.
opens, yeah.
So we are looking for applications to open in May, I think, for the next round of the production training scheme. So we've just closed the last cohort, and then we'll open it up again. Then the next one, I should say, will be unscripted television, and it'll be companies all across the UK. We don't know who they are yet, but I imagine there'll be plenty in Leeds. And yeah, so if you also, I realise if I'm talking in TV talk, so unscripted, if you're not aware, is basic. It sounds obvious when I say it like this, but it's everything filmed without a script. So that's all factual entertainment, documentaries, whatever it might be. And we have a whole other cohort which is going at the minute for scripted, which is obviously drama and comedy. They tend to be very different in how they're made, which is why we split the two. So it's worth having a look. If you're not sure which one you're interested in at the moment, worth having a think about what kind of roles you'd actually want when you get into TV, and you should figure out from that what you're actually interested in.
Brilliant. And where does Made in Chelsea sit? I'm joking. I'm joking. Which side?
I'd love to say it's in drama, but I don't think it would count.
No. So there is a question from James. If reading a CV, when someone is trying to get across how passionate they are in a sector or industry, how do we not come across as over the top?
I love over the top. I don't think you have to worry about being over the top. But it is a good question. I mean, I think you'd be surprised how much people just like to see the passion coming out. Like, it really isn't a bad thing. You don't have to sound cool or anything like that. Like, you're allowed to just say, I absolutely love this. I think, pinpoint the kind of shows you like, do a bit of research around that. If you just say, I love Channel 4 and that's it, and I love everything you put out, I won't believe you to an extent. So really figure out what it is that you like. So as I say, if you love documentaries, pick out which documentaries it is you like. On the other hand of that, also don't be too critical of some shows. That's the one side where I think sometimes passion can come across wrong, because I've interviewed people where they've started to say the writers they really don't like, or the shows that they just didn't think work. And sometimes, you know, like, you want people with critical thinking skills of why they don't enjoy something or why something didn't work, but sometimes it can come across as well, you just never know also who's interviewing you. I've said before things that I didn't like and it turns out it was someone's mate, or like, you just never know in TV. People are friends with TV presenters also. So yeah, I think, but just be specific about your passion. I think that's the best thing.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for tailoring, isn't there, for the job you're applying for and the job you want to go for, and not being too generic. And passion can come across in that sense as well, like knowing, having a full interest in the thing that you're applying for, and making sure that that application is tailored to the route that you want to take, rather than being general, can kind of show how much time you've put into an application, really. So Eve has asked, what 2 things or phrases that you have seen in a CV that you don't like? Or anything at all?
Good question.
I know.
Just really generic words, and I'm guilty of this. I can guarantee I'd open my own CV and I'll have said this. But if you say I'm personable, enthusiastic, and I don't know, something else. But you know, like the words that everybody uses, and I know it's so hard because you probably are personable and enthusiastic, so it's really annoying when someone says don't put it, but just try and make it really specific to you. And I mean, I know it's, I don't want to get too like a therapist here, but I know it's hard at the start of your working life to really know who you are as a person in an organization, so to really understand your personality in the working world. But just try and think of who you are with your friends. So if you are the I don't know, the center of attention, or maybe the louder one, you can say that you might be a natural team leader, or that you are, you know, a good people person and good with social skills. If you're more reserved, you can say, I'm, you know, I'm not saying this is a bad thing because I'm more reserved, so I'm trying to think of the good things, but you could just say, I'm much more organized, I'm a really good team player, I know how to, you know, that type of thing. So they're
Considered. Yeah.
considered, exactly. Like, and they're all great things, but just make basically what you want as well. As I said before, your CV tells a story, so make sure it's you, so that when we meet you, or whoever it is, a prospective employer meets you, it should add up. Like if I see someone who looks bombastic on a CV and then we meet them and they seem just like quite sweet and quiet, you think, well, what's gone on? Like, what, you know, everything's fine, but just make sure it is you as a person.
Yeah. And if you're going to say that you're, well, rather than say you're enthusiastic and personable, make that come across in your CV.
Yeah.
You know, if you're enthusiastic, show that you're enthusiastic. Don't say it. Saying it doesn't mean anything, but showing it through the things that you write and the way that you write it, that's where it comes across. So I've got another question. I do not have experience in the media industry, but in consulting. I am aiming for project manager roles. Would the absence of relevant industry experience be a significant factor? I do watch a lot of TV, to be honest.
Well, I'm glad that you put that at the end. I think for careers in broadcast, I'm guessing if you're looking at project management, you're more looking at broadcasting. It's totally fine that you've not got experience in TV. We've got a couple of people in the team at Channel 4, especially now we've moved to Leeds, that have not worked in TV before, but they work in really, you know, technical. So like in my team, there's the PMO team, which is the portfolio management team. And even in the 4 skills team, not everybody has a TV background. So I wouldn't worry. I think it's just about saying, I want to work for you because of this reason. So if you want to work for Channel 4 because you're really excited about it being a digital business, or about it, you know, it's got great output, or you like its values, just talk about it as like a normal, like you would any other employer. We're not that special. We're just a normal employer.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's great. It's all about those transferable skills, isn't it? So as long as you're meeting the skills that are required, it's not necessarily about industry.
Yeah.
I think if anybody has is applying for a job, or has any questions, if they come across a job that they'd like to apply for, whether you're alumni or whether you are still at university, you should be able to access your career service, who will be able to help you to you know, organize putting together an application. They won't write it for you, but they will be able to help you to match your skills to the skills that somebody else is, you know, that the company is asking for, to make sure you put together a strong application. They can look through CVs and applications to make sure that you're hitting all the right notes, you know, ticking all the boxes. We've had another question that's already been asked, but I'm going to refer to it just so they know that it's already been asked, about whether you sponsor job visas. I think that came up earlier as tier 2. So you mentioned, didn't you, that you need a right to work, and that it will say on the job if
I think it should, yeah.
Love Island water bottle for Channel 4 for employee.
Oh my
is the
God,
question.
no, I'm so sorry.
Oh, I see. I was like, is that a question? I don't understand.
You're allowed to watch other shows, as I've found out. Yeah, we love the merch. Love any merch from across television.
You know, having an awareness of the wider industry is useful in going into all jobs. It is always useful to have a wider understanding of the industry. And
absolutely.
I think, as you said earlier, make sure you watch TV. Don't go in and be like, I only watch YouTube. I've never watched anything on TV.
No, you can watch things on Awful. That's fine.
Yeah.
To be fair, it depends what team. Like if you're going for 4 Studio and all you watch is YouTube, you're probably fine, because that's all they really want people to do, is people who understand each other.
But if you're
going for TV production,
or a job in scheduling, and then you're like, I've never watched any scheduled TV in my life, then
I don't know what it is. No, that would
like,
not be a great
I'm not
start.
sure how scheduling works. Yeah.
It's quite easy research to do as well, I think.
Yeah.
You could just watch a night of Channel 4 and be prepared.
Yeah, exactly. See how it works. Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Has anybody else got any questions? They're primarily coming through to me, so I don't know if you're getting any direct
I don't think I
messages.
can see them.
No, that's fine. I think they're
Oh.
coming directly to me. But no, it seems.
Cool.
I'll give it a couple of more minutes and I'll just go over some quick housekeeping just before we close. Before I thank Charlotte for her time, I'm just going to pop a quick feedback form in. Oh, I'm trying to send it to one person again. So I'm just going to pop a quick feedback form in the chat for everybody. It just allows us to get a bit of an idea of the university you're from and the course that you study, and kind of a quick kind of litmus test on how you felt the session's gone. But hopefully you found it really useful. There's been a lot of good information in there, I think. The session is recorded. I admittedly did not hit record right at the beginning of the session. I had it paused, but it is recorded from pretty much the start of the session. So we will make that available to everyone shortly. It will probably be after this week is over. And also we have some more sessions coming up. There are a couple more questions, so I'll come back to those in a second, but just to let everybody know, there are some more sessions coming up this week. So we have 2 sessions tomorrow at 2 o'clock. We have one for professional services. And at 4 o'clock, we have one looking at SMEs in the area. So they're small to medium enterprises. And on Thursday, we have 3 sessions. So we have one at 12 o'clock, which is an alumni panel. We have a graduate from each of the universities. So the Art Uni, University of Leeds, Leeds Trinity, and Leeds Beckett University. And they'll be talking about what they wish they'd known when they graduated. We've got a session at 2 on public sector and policy, and one at 4 on growth sectors. So do drop in if you are able to come along to those sessions. It's the same Zoom link, and everybody is welcome. So we've just got a couple more questions to ask, if you don't mind, Charlotte.
Absolutely.
So how would you suggest to approach TV production companies in Leeds? Send them an email with your CV connected and an overview of why you would like to work for them, or is there another way?
Yeah, I mean, try and do as well, and I know it's hard because all this stuff isn't out there all the time, but see if they have got anything going into production. I think, I'm trying to think of the company, it's like Variety magazine, I think, online, and companies like Deadline tend to post what's going into production. So keep an eye out for that, see what they're working on, try and pick out stuff that they've worked on in your email that you liked, just so they get an idea. And it depends what type, obviously it depends on the level of work you're looking for, but if you are looking for runner work, maybe just try and say, I'd be around for whatever it is, a couple of days of work, just really keen to get my foot in the door. So that, I would say that's the main thing. Don't panic too much if you really don't know that they're going into production, and you just have to say, this is a totally cold reach out on that. That's absolutely fine.
You can still tailor the CD, the email, can't you? You can still, even if you don't know if they're going into production, you can say why specifically you want to work for that production company.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be completely, unfeeling.
And I think as well, the other thing, because this is quite complicated in TV, especially with production companies, is who the best person is. So my advice is to usually go on their website, and some of them, if they're big enough, will have a talent manager, so they're the best person. Otherwise, the best person is usually the head of production, because they oversee all of the ops of the organisation. But it can be really difficult when you just look at an organisation's about us to figure out who the best person is. If they're even smaller than that, where they don't have a head of production, just try and find anyone with the word production in the title, because production managers and coordinators are responsible for crewing up shows. So that's usually a good place to start.
Yeah, and LinkedIn is your friend. You will find people's names on LinkedIn that you will struggle to find elsewhere. Is there a big postgraduate emphasis on the business side? Again, we've said before, you're not in HR, so you may not know specifically, but do they prefer somebody to have a master's or postgraduate qualification, or?
I don't think so. I'm not aware of, so I used to work in another place where it did used to, we don't even check if people have degrees or anything. Which I probably shouldn't say on a university for, but it's certainly not an industry that I think is quite as focused on your academic background. It's much more about, you know, what you can do, getting stuck in. So I've never seen anything say we'd expect you to have an MA, in the same way that when I worked at the Combined Authority, some jobs said you should be educated to MA level, and I know in the public sector there is a bigger push on that, but I don't think I've ever seen that on a Channel 4 job.
If anybody is unsure about the types of things that are asked within job descriptions, then it's always worth having a look on the website. Channel 4 always have loads of jobs live. You can have a look through those, and it's really good research in general to be doing to see the types of skills and experience that you might need for the jobs that you might want to go into. It's worth doing in every industry, but if you can come across any of these job descriptions, then take a look and see who asks for what, and if there's anything that you might be missing, if there's any skills gaps within your CV that you might want to build up.
I've had a question. Not to jump in.
No, go for it.
So is film and TV extra work worthwhile mentioning on a CV or in an application? It can be, I think, just make it relevant. So I think just saying it in a way of, you know, I think we've had a couple of people who might have said, from my background artist work or supporting artist work, I have seen the kind of roles available on set and I kind of like the energy of it, or I was intrigued, you know, from chatting to the third AD in the truck or whatever it is. I thought that might be an interesting role. I do think it's worth mentioning. And also if you've got any contacts, like if you did, I know that it tends to be through an agency and then you just meet people on the day, but if you did, I don't know, manage to grab some sides or a call sheet, like it might be worth dropping, you know, who, as I say, keep it relevant and keep it appropriate, depending on how, if people didn't want their number or email address shared, obviously, like keep it relevant. But it's worth just saying, oh, by the way, we did this job together. Is there any, if you're looking at runner work or production assistant work or whatever it might be, then it's worth doing that. But yeah, it's always worth mentioning that you've been on a set.
Yeah, so it can show you've had an understanding.
I've had another one. Sorry.
Go for it. No,
it's now coming direct to me. So now feel free to say when we got to wrap up.
That's all right.
So Megan's asked, how can I get into investigative journalism without doing a specific master's? Oh, see, I've asked it and now I don't necessarily know the answers. I mean, it works the same as any journalism. So I think now, yeah, you just get some experience as a journalist. Most people, and look up the kind of people that you are interested in. So for instance, for investigative journalism, the company Candor, who were based in Leeds, who were on my list before, Candor Productions, that's led by Anna Hall, who is quite a famous documentary maker, and she did a show called Catching a Killer, which was quite, it wasn't specifically well, I suppose it was investigative journalism in a way, because she was opening up cold cases to see if they could figure them out. So just having a look at people that you look up to, but again, that's documentary filmmakers get that experience. This is just a very specific one we do around dispatches, which is really focused on underrepresented talent. So that's why it's very niche. But yeah, there's lots of different routes in.
Yeah. There was a follow-up to the postgrad question that is there, well, it asks specifically about, is there an HR grad scheme, but I'll ask it more generally than that. Are there grad schemes at Channel 4? I'm not aware of any, but
but not in the same way that there are, where I just don't think we're a big enough employer to offer a grad scheme, to be honest. Yeah. As I said, there are apprenticeships, which are probably the closest thing. And there are a lot of apprenticeships in the HR team, but otherwise, no, not to my knowledge.
Yeah. But I mean, going into HR doesn't necessarily require a grad scheme. You
No.
can, you can start it's about transferable skills again. So if you can build up those skills and then kind of work your way through HR, you might start administrator or advisor, depending on what your skills are. Give yourself a bit of a experience and build those skills in those areas. And then, as Charlotte said earlier, Channel 4 is just like any other company. So they will put a job description out, and if you can effectively show that you meet the skills that they're asking for, then you can apply for that job. It doesn't necessarily require the grad scheme route. I know it's a route that some people do kind of look to go down, and that's absolutely fine, but it's not your only route as a graduate. You can find experience in other ways by just kind of going down a normal job application route, basically, and then working your way through teams and companies that way. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I think thank you, Mike. Somebody said it's it's actually Mike from Leeds Beckett said it's been a really enjoyable session. So thank you ever so much, Charlotte.
Thank you.
I also had the question from Megan about masters in journalism, so I think that's my only other question. I'll give people another minute or so just in case there's anything else that they want to ask, but I do think we've covered a lot of areas. I think it's gone well today.
Covered off the entire industry.
I know, isn't it good? But I'll pop the feedback form back in the chat just so it's at the bottom for everyone. If you do get a chance to fill it in, that'd be great, if only because it would be really useful to know who we've had with us today from which universities. Yeah, I think it's looking quiet on the questions front, so we'll wrap it up a couple of minutes early today. Thanks ever so much for your time, Charlotte. It's been really insightful, really good to hear what Channel 4 do and what you look for in grads and applications. As I said, we'll make the slides available, we'll make the video available. If anybody has any questions about getting into industry or applying to jobs or anything about InLeeds, please do contact your relevant careers service. They will be able to help you. And yeah, thanks everybody for coming along today.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.